This is Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. We live in a time of deep divisiveness. Our society is cleaved in half by many issues, and it can be so difficult to have civilized conversations these days that our team here at Vermont Edition, we hesitated to move forward with today's show. But after careful deliberation, we decided we could not shirk away from our journalistic responsibility. We have to confront tough conversations head on. That is why today we are devoting this full hour to jam bands. Yes, jam bands. I'm talking Grateful Dead, Widespread Panic, the Allman Brothers, my own personal favorite, the Dave Matthews Band, and Vermont's very own boy band, Phish. Some of you, I bet, are jumping for joy right now. I see you, Mitch Wertlieb. Others, like our managing producer, John Ahrens, are softly crying and stuffing cotton balls in their ears. Our guest this hour is a veteran music journalist and lover of the jam band genre. Mike Ayers has had work published in Billboard, The Wall Street Journal, Rolling Stone, Time, and more. His new book is called Sharing in the Groove, the untold story of the 90s jam band explosion and the scene that followed. He's based in New Jersey, but he has a couple Vermont events coming up. Next Monday at Phoenix Books in Burlington and Tuesday at Northshire Books in Manchester. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. That was quite a wind up, and it is extremely divisive. Like you are doing the journalistic truth telling that we all need. Like it is, it's a very polarizing topic, and it was polarizing even more so 30 years ago.
Yeah, we are both very brave. And listeners, you too can join this divisive conversation about jam bands we're having today. Tell us, who is your favorite band in this genre? Do you have a favorite concert recording? You can give us a call at 800-639-2211 or send us an email this hour to vermontedition@vermontpublic.org. And as I was joking to our team yesterday, Mike, Vermont Edition is usually an hour, but who knows? Maybe this will go 4 or 5 hours. We can't tell.
Yeah, we have no idea. We will see where it goes. We could be here next week, starting right now.
Okay, so first, let's define some terms here. What defines a jam band?
You know, I think it's just a band that has the spirit of improv weaved into their songwriting, and there's a certain ethos at when they approach live music, and they don't want to repeat the same thing over and over and over, especially in terms of what they play every night. So, Sunday night is going to be different than Monday night is going to be different than Tuesday night. And the fans that go to this, the fans that lap this up, they love that. I was looking at a set list that Phish played on Sunday night in Chicago, right? And the annotations on the set list said, these 7 songs that they played that night, this is the first time that they have appeared this year. And it gave the dates that they were last appeared and how many shows that they played in between the last time and Sunday night, which, exactly. That's a huge mouthful, and you might be exhausted at this point listening to me. We're 2 minutes in, but the fans love that stuff. And, you were talking about Dave Matthews, like their fan base does the exact same thing. It's, that's what the fans love, the culture loves.
Yeah, so this culture is really important to this scene, and we're going to dive into that deeply throughout this hour. But first, I know you are a big fan yourself. You've been to hundreds of these shows that we're talking about today. When did this love of jam bands first start for you?
It started in the early 90s. I was in early high school, and started getting into classic rock, the Hendrix, the Zeppelin, The Who, Pink Floyd, which led to the Grateful Dead, and the Grateful Dead were still actively touring in the early '90s. I went to my first Dead show in '93, and just the whole vibe outside of the arena and inside the arena and the community spirit. I was just enamored, right? I'd never seen anything like it, and nothing like it really, to be honest, existed like that, like the Dead's community. And a few months later, I went to my first Phish show. I had heard about them through the grapevine, through Relics magazine, and I said, "Wow, this is exactly like the Dead, but it's not actually. It's a lot of people my age. This band might be for us." And watching them on stage, just the energy that they had was infectious, and the spontaneity that they had was infectious. I had never seen anything like that before. And I think a lot of these artists, they pride themselves in not doing the same thing twice, and that's what brings people back.
Yeah, and the fact that Phish, of course, grew out of Burlington is a point of pride for many of us here in Vermont. But you, Mike, had brought up this culture and the this tendency that fans of these bands have to follow them, not just for, a couple concerts or see a concert at the beginning of a tour and then maybe return at the end for another one, but for weeks and weeks and months, people will follow these bands. I want to play a clip here of an interview that MTV did back in 1996 with a young woman named Amy, who was a Phish fan traveling with the band on tour.
Are you trying to get tickets?
Yeah, we're trying. We haven't been into a show yet this whole tour, so we're working on it. Hopefully we'll get in.
And what's your method of trying?
Well, I try and sell hemp jewelry to make money, and that makes my gas money and tickets and food, whatever.
So you've actually been on tour with the band at this point?
Well, not with the band, but just touring around following them, yeah.
How many people do you know of that are following them?
Well, look around. About half to 50 to 70% of the people here are probably tour kids.
And where do you guys stay?
In cars and campgrounds and hotel rooms.
Hemp jewelry. I do not miss it. Mike, are you familiar with this now kind of iconic interview?
Yeah, I love the '90s the Phish woman. She was she's indicative of what it was like in the mid '90s. I mean, the band by that time, I think that was taken from Halloween '96 in Atlanta, which I was there, which I drove 6 hours for that morning.
You were at this same concert.
I was. I didn't know her. I didn't meet her. Did not buy any hemp jewelry from her. But yes, they covered the entire Talking Heads Remain in Light album for their second set. And it was fantastic. But no, she was indicative of this lifestyle that a lot of people adopted back then, where it was, you do long stretches on the road. It was like this Jack Kerouac on the road vibe that you were trying to, I guess, emulate. And not so far in the rearview mirror at that time was the 60s and Woodstock and all that. So like there was this kind of romantic vibe of what was in the past and how people went about their life and just figured things out on the road and made things happen. I personally wouldn't recommend going to shows back then or even now without tickets. Like I'm the person that like wants to go in and can't really just wing it. But there was, a lot of people that just made made things meet by doing what they could on that scene.
Yeah.
And they were known as, there was like this, you talk about this divisive, some people call them tour kids, some people call them tour rats.
Why is that?
Because maybe they weren't as clean as, someone who, wasn't on the road all the time and sleeping in cars.
Watch the video. That's all I'll say. I also in this video, which was an excellent minute and a half watch, there's somebody who walks by in a full cow suit during this interview. There's a person with a full face of clown makeup, completely unexplained and unacknowledged. So maybe one of those was you, Mike.
Well, I can explain that. It wasn't me, but everybody was dressing up for Halloween. And it became a tradition in 1994 in Glens Falls, New York. Their first proper like big Halloween bash where they decided they would cover a record by the fans voting what record would you like us to cover? And we'll do it. We'll learn it and we'll do it. And it'll be the first time it's ever played live by us. And we'll play it from start to finish. And the Beatles' White Album won out. And the second set, they play the entire White Album as a musical costume. And ever since then, the Halloween show became this massive tradition in the community. And everybody would dress up. Mostly, they dress up as Phish songs.
Okay, you're showing what a noob I am. I'm sure many Phish fans out there are like, obviously, Michaela, the Halloween concert. If you've been to one of these, we would love to hear from you. 800-639-2211 is our number. And let's take some calls here. We have Keegan calling in from Rothenville. Keegan, go ahead.
Hey, how's it going today, guys?
Good.
So I'm in my 30s, and so I kind of missed the Phish craze. But we had, in my generation, we had the Twiddle craze, which was kind of like a new age jam band that came onto the scene and is now on indefinite leave, but it was kind of that same energy, that same vibe, and it was kind of cool to still be able to experience that after Phish had kind of come off from the scene.
Yeah. Have you been to a bunch of concerts, Keegan?
I go to a lot of concerts each year.
Yeah.
But I've been to Twiddle concerts.
Mike, are you familiar with the band Twiddle?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Keegan. Like Twiddle, made a big splash on the scene. They're not playing so much now. Obviously, you just said that, but Goose, Billy Strings, Eggy, all these acts are crushing it and finding a lot of new fans, old and young, and the term "carry the torch" is a little overused at this point, but they are kind of taking this ethos that was developed in the 90s by the acts that I'm covering in this book, like Phish and Dave and Panic and Mo, and putting their spin on it. I saw Goose a couple weeks ago in the Garden, and they covered Kate Bush that night. They covered Bruce Hornsby. They're doing their kind of own thing, but with a lot of influences from that decade.
Keegan, thanks so much for calling in. We are going to have to take a short break, but when we come back, I want to hear from more of our listeners about your favorite jam bands, or maybe you hate jam bands. That is okay, too, but you got to tell us why. You can call in at 800-639-2211. We're speaking with Mike Ayers, who's the author of a new book about jam bands and their explosion in the 1990s. Let's go out to our break with a little bit more Phish, our homegrown band. Here is the band playing their song Vultures in Raleigh, North Carolina in 1997.
Thanks for listening to Vermont Edition, where support comes from Wendell's Furniture, home of wendellsdeals.com, offering furniture designed for a range of budgets, in stock and ready for summer. wendellsdeals.com. And Vermont Construction's Roofing Division, offering roof installation and repair with free estimates on asphalt and standing seam metal roofs. Now serving all of Vermont and northern New York. More at vtroofing.com.
Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Today, we are speaking with Mike Ayers, a longtime music journalist with a new book out. It's an oral history of jam bands called Sharing in the Groove, the untold story of the 90s jam band explosion and the scene that followed. Let's go right back to the phones here. We have a couple people calling in to talk jam bands with us. We'll start with Roger in Burlington. Roger, go ahead.
Hey, I'm just calling in with a little bit of a jam band critique, or at least maybe more towards the culture of it. As someone who grew up in Vermont surrounded by jam band culture, it was always kind of something to rebel against. Honestly, a lot of like the lifestyle of following bands around and, kind of leading a relatively countercultural existence was in a way the ultimate opulence and really something for like privileged, wealthy white people, to be honest, primarily. And I think that element of the jam band culture led for a lot of people to have, like fun, goofy times, but really zone out and not really engage or think critically about maybe different ways to live life or the actual elements of the counterculture. And thus it turned kind of consumerist. And it's kind of been that way for a while. So, a lot of those people grew up and became politicians and lawyers and things like that. And the world's pretty messed up. So, it didn't do much. So,
Roger, thanks for those thoughts. That's really interesting to chew on. This idea of being able to follow around a band for months on end comes with it its own type of privilege. Mike, I'm wondering if you've thought about that as you were putting together this oral history of the jam band scene.
Yeah, look, that's a fair critique. That critique has been existing within the community in certain avenues for decades as well. The people I think that you're describing, there was a slightly rude, possibly rude name for them. We'd call them trustafarians, right? So they would just travel around and live off trust funds and go see shows. And, like you were saying, like, what does that really do? You can't really, if the counterculture's values were around, changing ideals, changing the world, those sorts of things. And, you're more focused on, seeing a band, where is that change going to happen? This book is different. I mean, I'm telling the story of how the musicians in this world essentially created a 2.0 version of the scene. And they were doing it essentially very DIY. It's very, the sounds aren't the same, but the philosophies around like bands like Fugazi, like punk rock ethos, it is kind of the same. So I really wanted to tell that story about how a bunch of DIY musicians rose to prominence, and some had very big record label success, some didn't. And, how they essentially created fandom that remains today, if that makes sense.
And Mike, I'm glad you brought up Fugazi and the punk scene. Punk and then also grunge with bands like Nirvana were two other really big music genres in the 1990s, the period of time that your book focuses on. And bands in those genres really positioned themselves as anti-corporate. But it kind of seems like jam bands, in a way, were the most anti-corporate of all because they were, creating this music that really was not made for radio play. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it wasn't made for radio play, or at least they didn't necessarily care about radio play the way record labels wanted them to care about radio play, which is very different, right? So, they loved making studio records. Their heroes made amazing studio records that they were influenced by. So they took a lot of pride and care into making what they thought were fantastic albums, right? but that's a key distinction, like the word albums versus the radio single. And they would cut songs, and if the radio state or the label wanted to send them to radio stations, fine. Like, who's going to complain about that? But they were also seeing tickets move and people really be enamored with their live show and not their radio hit. So they, were smart, and they focused on that. Now, it's not to say that some of the acts from that era didn't get very big on radio. Blues Traveler had Runaround, they had Hook, Spin Doctors had Two Princes, Little Miss, Can't Be Wrong, and those were those were massive '90s pop radio staples then and now. But I do talk about how those radio hits really transformed the trajectory of the band and also their fan base. The Spin Doctors had a huge hippie fan base in the early days, and then they had the two radio hits, and then all of a sudden they're noticing, the 20-year-old tie-dye kid at their show standing next to a mom who'd brought her 10-year-old who saw their video on MTV and wanted to just hear those two songs. So, it was a little bit of different scenarios for different artists in terms of radio and record sales, and it had a way different impact for both of them, like both scenarios.
Mike, you brought up the Spin Doctors a couple of times, so let's hear a clip from them. This is the Spin Doctors in 1994 at Woodstock playing Cleopatra's Cat.
Mustaches don't play pretty games. Egypt is the place to be.
Again, that was the Spin Doctors back in 1994. Let's go back to the phones here. We have Lisa calling in from Glens Falls, New York. Lisa, go ahead.
Hey, I just love that you're doing this book, and I am from Glens Falls, so I hope you have that in your book for that Phish show, because you said Glen Falls, and we're a little particular about the S on there. But I've been to over 100 Phish shows since '94. I was at that Woodstock '94 show as well with the Spin Doctors, and saw the Grateful Dead live in '94 at Highgate with that 100,000 venue crowd. I ended up front row for that, and Phish at Stack front row in '94, and it really, jam bands changed my life at that point in time. The guy previously talking about a lot of those people became politicians and commercial and cynical at the same time. It creates a whole community of love. A lot of those people also went into social work. As an adult, I am in the social work field because of working and meeting so many different types of people on those jam band lots. I still try to get to as many concerts as possible a year, a little bit harder as an adult with work and kids and sports, but we're instilling a love of music and concerts in my 14-year-old daughter, and I love that you're doing this book. And people think a jam band is a little out there, but there really is a great community, and people from all walks of life, they get together and able to enjoy a show together, and I just love that about them.
Oh, Lisa, thanks so much for calling in. Lisa mentioned that she is sort of passing along this love of the music and the concert scene to her kids. Mike, do you see a new generation of fans of these bands that really started like 30 years ago at this point? Is their fandom still growing today?
Oh yeah, their fandom is certainly growing. You go to a Phish show, you go to a Panic show these days, and it's not uncommon to see parents with their kids, with their teenage kids, with their young kids, The artists sell merchandise for youth at every single show. It's not an accident. It's not random. Look, it's really cool. And what she was just saying about building community. There's this joy that you feel when you're going to see live music. I mean, there's really nothing like it being around 15, 20,000 other people that are so invested into what you are witnessing live. And you have that, and that moment's finite, right? That moment is maybe 3 hours, maybe a couple times a month if you're lucky. If you go on tour, you can do it a lot. And it's not just jam bands, go to any show these days, go to like a big pop artist like Taylor Swift or Olivia Rodrigo. You're around tens of thousands of people that are just so joyous. That isn't
Now you're speaking my language, Mike.
Yeah, well, great. Well, but it's true though. It's a really infectious moment that people can have, especially, for me, like in a day and age where everything is algorithms and Spotify and, feeds and AI and all this stuff, right? A live music show where you're looking and watching and experiencing something unfold between your eyes with a bunch of other people that love the same thing. Like, it is incredibly joyous these days.
Yeah. Well, let's keep that joy going with another bit of music. This is Widespread Panic playing their song Pigeons at the Georgia Theater back in 1991.
You know you're dreaming when you wake up. There's nothing there worth buying.
They're going for it there, Mike.
Look, that was like 35 years ago or something, 34 years ago, and they're ripping it.
Yeah. That's great. You could hear some like country inflection in there too.
Yeah. They definitely have this southern rock twang that has always infused in their music.
Yeah.
They were the first band to be on the reformed Capricorn Records, which is the Allman Brothers label back in the 70s. So they have that southern rock vibe sneaking in here and there.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the phones here. We have Rich, who's on the line from Morrisville. Rich, what are your thoughts on the conversation?
Well, I'm a long time Deadhead. Was in the Haight in 1967 and followed them a lot. The band that I'm following now a lot is Goose. I think they're an incredible band, and they like the Dead. They not only cover songs, but they wrote a lot. They do a lot of writing and their own stuff, and it's all just first rate. It's the thing that I like about jam band music. I'm a bass player, and I loved what Phil Lesh with the Dead did with the bass and how he interplayed with, and that's the whole thing about jam bands, is that if they're good, the interplay between the bass, the rhythm guitar, and the lead guitar and the drummer is just incredible. It's like they're in each other's heads, and it's very much like really good jazz.
Mm. Well, if you like Goose, you can see him at Waterfront Park in Burlington this September. Mike, are you a fan of this band?
Yeah, Goose is fantastic. I've seen them, I don't know at this point, like maybe 12, 13 times over the last couple years, couple times this summer. They exactly what was just being said about the interplay. Like they have it. They can read and feel off each other, and I think that's what the acts we're talking about are really good at. They can write the 3 or 4 minute song. They're well capable of of doing that. It's that notion that they want to explore. They want to explore the instruments, the things that they're creating with the people on stage, like next to them, and they have an audience that is into it. Like, very, very rare. So they go for it. Goose is going for it.
Let's go next to Flip in Burlington. Flip, go ahead.
Hi. I have a little story about the business side of the jam bands and the opportunity that a fan thinks they'll never get. So in 1990, I was an executive in the ski industry, and my buddy said, hey, you want to go out and see the Grateful Dead for New Year's Eve? And I said, it's December. Nobody gets tickets. Well, we flew out to Oakland, and we got 2 nights backstage passes to sign a contract to use the official Grateful Dead graphics on K2 skis and snowboards. And I had sourced snowboards in Europe, so that's why I was there. So we got to walk around the stage, we got to eat dinner with the roadies, then we'd walk out and see the show, then we go backstage. It was like, pinch me. I can't believe this is happening. But they were doing $35 million in merchandise just alone without tickets and records, and it took 200 people on the payroll to keep the Grateful Dead going. So that was my unique and wonderful experience.
Wow, Flip, thanks so much for sharing that. It really gets to what an industry, even if it is, anti-corporate, anti-capitalist at its heart, this is still a big industry following many of these bands. Yeah, Mike?
Oh my gosh. A lot of them are, look, I don't know numbers like Flip just did, but like I would say that they're doing pretty well for themselves, and they keep it all in house and don't give any away to record labels. There's no deals like, we'll promote you on TikTok if you give us 20% of the merchandise sale. Like they've largely kept all of that to themselves, and that's a great thing when you're not you're not Spotify streaming, successful artists the way some are. You're not blowing up on TikTok. You're really just banking on the live performance to keep things going. Yeah, it's great. Look, Grateful Dead is a cash cow at this point. They've figured it out, and they all created a model that worked for them and worked for the heavy touring musician, and it's worked out really well.
We got an email from Eric in Milton who says, I discovered the Grateful Dead in he writes 1888. I am thinking that number might be wrong. Regardless, in high school. I didn't get to a Dead show until 1994. I was listening to them when bootleg cassette tapes were the way to get your fix of the Dead. Every show is unique. These days, I'm so grateful for internet archives to dive deep into the thousands of live shows. As Jerry Garcia said, it's like black licorice. You either love it or you don't. But if you love it, you really love it. Well, with that, let's pause here for one more break. When we come back, Mike, I want to talk a little bit more about the deep Vermont roots of the jam band scene in the 90s. And if you went to a show sometime in the 90s here in Vermont, call in and tell us about it. 800-639-2211. This is Vermont Edition. Stay with us. Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Today on the show, we're jamming out with Mike Ayers, author of the new book, Sharing in the Groove. It's an oral history all about jam band culture and the explosion of that scene in the 1990s. Let's go right back to the phone lines. So we have Brian in Thetford, who's been waiting on the line with us. Brian, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Thank you. Happy to share in the groove.
What have you been thinking about listening to this conversation?
Well, I've been thinking about how in 1981 I traveled through 30 states in 4 months with no shoes, some Day-Glo paint, and no money, and then decided Vermont was a really nice place to apply those community ethics. And so there were many years when I didn't see any shows, but I did see Santana kind of anoint each member of Phish at Mount Mansfield at Stowe in 1992. He came in during YEM and You Enjoy Myself, and he stood in front of each member and played towards their instruments with his guitar, and you could see the transference. It was tremendous. And now, if you're following somebody like Goose, you might know that they now have a Vermont drummer, a guy named Cotter Ellis, who's really worked tremendously at playing in Grateful Dead bands, Led Zeppelin cover bands. Every time he's back off of the Goose tour, he's playing at the Zen Barn at Nectar's. He's a tremendously talented son of a band leader. And to see where Goose has taken the whole crowd scene to, I went over to First Bank of New Hampshire Pavilion in Guilford just before the MSG show last month. And they took his 5-minute song, Draconian Meter Maid, out for what's usually a 4 or 5 minute walk. They took it out for 15 minutes, really showed him the love. They really varied the tempo. And they can do that with just about any one of their songs.
Brian, it sounds like you have such a deep history with these bands, and I'm glad you brought up Cotter Ellis from the band Goose, because our guest Mike is going to be in conversation with him at Phoenix Books in Burlington on Monday. I'm getting that right, Mike?
You are getting that right. Yeah, Cotter's going to join me. Cotter's a beast, incredible and very hardworking. And, you're talking about the Stowe show from back in 92. I remember that. I remember that being a legendary tape being passed around. And, if you were talking to classic rock heads and they were like, a little iffy about this new band Phish, you're just like, oh, you got to listen to this show with Santana. Like this is the real deal. And it meant a lot. It meant a lot to young artists back then to have heroes give you such high endorsements as sitting in with you on stage, and it still does today. That meant the world for Goose when Trey sat in with them at Radio City Music Hall, and they went on tour a couple months later. Those sort of things mean the world. Another artist that is having the same sort of effect is Billy Strings. Sitting in with Panic, sitting in with Phish, and vice versa. It's great. It's a great symbiotic kind of relationship between the two generations right now.
Yeah. Mike, tell us about the role that Vermont plays in the jam band explosion of the 1990s. Were there certain iconic concerts or places where people played and were introduced to this music for the first time that really helped shape this culture?
Well, Trey from Phish, likes to tell the story about how Burlington didn't change its drinking age to 21, for a while. So it was 18 when he first moved there, which meant there was a lot of bars and a lot of need to fill those bars, and therefore a lot of need for bands. And so they essentially had the opportunity to play a lot. And there was a lot of clubs for bands to grow. Nectar's was mentioned, Hunt's, the Front, like those were places that gave acts a chance, and not just like a 30-minute chance. Like we're talking like you could set up shop for 3 to 4 hours on a Saturday night. Do that like a ton over years. You're gonna get very, very good. So I don't know if there is there's a lot of early shows that are considered iconic from that era, but I think it's probably more of a testament to a band then getting in the van and just booking shows themselves, and then eventually getting a booker to help them do that, and spreading out around the country and allowing people to tape your shows. So you had this word of mouth network going. You had the early days of the internet talking about you. You were playing a lot, and everybody is saying you got to hear this band Phish. They are from Burlington, right? So it starts to stamp that town, your city, into into the consciousness of the subculture. So 94, 95 rolls around. You know, in this subculture, in this scene, Burlington and Vermont is kind of seen as a mecca of sorts. I remember going up to Sugarbush to see them in summer '95, July 2nd and 3rd, and it was it was like we were going to the motherland, and we just felt so amazed and cool by just driving up and finding camping and taking the bus to the show, and it was on the base of a ski mountain, and we weren't the only ones. There were so many people that came to Vermont that summer because this was the place to go, and this was the band's hometown shows. We need to be there.
Well, let's give a little love to another homegrown band. This is Strange Folk. They were formed in Burlington in the early 90s. And this is them performing their song Dance in New Haven, Vermont in 1999.
You're walking along, and Joe man takes you for a ride. Emotions of your life collide, and you're dancing, move your feet and lose your mind, 'cause you're dancing, leave your trouble world behind.
Victoria is calling in from Norwich. Victoria, go ahead.
Hey, I was calling about String Cheese Incident, not Strange Folk.
Oh, yes. No, go ahead. We're just playing music from all different bands right now, but we would love to hear your thoughts on
I
String
know,
Cheese Incident.
so many jam bands. Yeah, so I'm from Colorado originally. They used to play in small bars, and I was in Burlington, walking down the street, and I was like, "Oh my God, String Cheese is playing!" And it was so surprised that there's barely anyone at the venue. Michael Kang was like, "Oh my God, why are you here?" I'm like, "Oh my God, it's great to see you. They're such an amazing band." Years later, I went to go see him in Phoenix, and totally sold out venue. So it's amazing to see how they can totally engage so many people and, jam bands.
Yeah, Victoria, thank you so much for calling in. String Cheese Incident is one of the bands that you cover in your book, Mike. Can you tell us a little bit more about them?
Yeah, from Colorado, ski bums that were also really good at playing bluegrass and had a lot of different influences from bluegrass and African and country, just a real hodgepodge. And around 95, they really decided to make a go of their band outside of Colorado, and spent years just packing up a pretty worn down van and driving around the country and playing for what was just described as pretty undersold places, but they were so determined to do it. And all these acts, they believe so much in their music and want people to hear it, and are willing to get in the van to bring it to people. I remember String Cheese played 97 where I was in school in Blacksburg at a very small venue. It held like 150 people. There was maybe like 25, 30 people. For some reason, they played 2 nights, and it was $5 to get in. And if you went the first night and came the second night and brought a friend, you each would get half price. I don't know if that's very interesting, but it was just like this ethos that, they wanted people to come, and they encouraged fans to spread the word. Them, like every other band that we're talking about, was very pro taping, pro bootleg, pro word of mouth. One of the bassist, Mark Brownstein from the Disco Biscuits, he told me a great line around how they thought about marketing. And a band marketing was always thought of as, well, that's just a band marketing, who cares about that? But when somebody tells you, that's word of mouth, and word of mouth is going to beat any type of marketing any day. And I do think that's kind of true. Like when you do have a friend or a family member or somebody that you really, really trust and know say, hey, you would really, really like this, you're going to pay attention, and that goes a long way. This community, whatever band you're into, is very much like that. And it's not like a snobby way. It's like, I love this thing, and I know you, and I think you will connect to it too. And so it's a very sharing mentality.
Yeah. Well, this last clip we're going to play, that what you were just saying, Mike, really hits home for me. This last clip is from Dave Matthews, and the reason I love this band is because my two older sisters love Dave Matthews, and I have lots of childhood memories of sitting on their floors as they were like burning incense and listening to Dave and jamming out. This is from a clip of him playing his song Satellite in 1994, not in front of a big crowd, but at a near empty Blockbuster Video in Memphis, Tennessee. Let's take a listen.
Satellite strong from I know where people talk about the station. Winter's cool, spring races, and the cold storm is chasing everything that needs replacing. Look up, look down, all around me, satellite.
Mike, I just love in that clip how you could hear the people who are there just totally not listening to him and talking about something else. But it's pretty fun to see in these clips we've been listening to and watching, and also in your book, how some of these bands transformed from really small acts into huge sensations that have shaped our culture. Mike, lastly, you are going to be in Vermont next week, talking to folks here, talking about your book. Tell us where you're hitting up.
Yeah, I'll be at Phoenix Books in Burlington on Monday. I'll be in conversation with Cotter, the drummer from Goose. It should be a great time. We're going to have some giveaways, some prizes. I may or may not have made some exclusive tie-dye shirts to give away.
Wow.
I know. We might have like a Name That Jam contest. Like, it's going to be super fun. We'll do the same thing the next night at Northshire Books in Manchester. I won't be with Cotter that night. I'll be with my friend Jeff, who hosts a jam radio show down in the Manchester area. And it should be a really great time. It'll be a lot of discussion about the era, and have some fun things in store.
Mike Ayers is the author of the new book, Sharing in the Groove, the untold story of the 90s jam band explosion and the scene that followed. Mike, this has been so much fun. Thanks for talking with us today.
Thank you. This was so great. I really appreciate it.
And again, you can catch Mike July 28th and 29th in Burlington and in Manchester. All right, that's all the time we have for today. We are ending this on time. Look at us. Today's show was directed by Aaliyah Papes. John Aarons is our managing producer. Andrea Lauren and Daniela Fierro are our producers. Our intern is Kelly Canuxerl, and our call screener today was Rick Barrett. Our theme music is by Myra Flynn. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch up again soon.